Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Zach Lesage here. Today we're going to be going over some metagame updates from the Stuttgart Regional Championships. Stuttgart actually just finished not too long ago. I'm recording this on a Sunday. Shout out to me for being on top of stuff. But whatever you're watching this, I do have some things to kind of show based off the PokeStats.live website. They showed how decks converted into the metagame. And I think this is probably a place where I want to start off. We're going to dive right into this video. Like, share, subscribe, all that great stuff. And I'll be going over some deck lists, some metagame breakdown stuff, and what this can mean as we approach locals and what we have going into San Antonio Regionals. That being said, Tina did very well going in from day 1 into day 2. So that's what this day 2 conversion chart is. So if we look at these, this is probably where we could rank decks on if you're trying to make day 2, or the decks that did very well at the Stuttgart Regional Championships. So I could see that players might be looking at this and being like, the top 3 decks, if you want to convert well into a day 2, would be Tina, SableZard, or Rapid Strike, Urshifu, and Teleon. So I could see all of those being strong plays in our current metagame. And I think they all did well at the Stuttgart Regional Championships as well. We'll get into the list in a second. Some decks that did not particularly do well going into day 2. Chen Pao did quite bad. Quite literally the worst deck possibly you could play to make day 2 based off of Stuttgart. So none of them, 0-0 goose egg, made day 2 at Stuttgart. And that means that some of them were played. So we can check out PokeStats.live to see exactly whatever decks and counts. Roaring Moon didn't do particularly well. And Charizard, being the #1 played deck, also did quite poor. And only 7% of the, I think it was like 170%, or 170 players. So let's say it's 2, whatever. Regardless of however the numbers are looking. Charizard didn't do very well. Fusion Mew didn't necessarily have a great day 2. And everything else did like kind of okay. So regardless, look at this in somewhere like in the middle of this list. I'm looking to try to find in the middle where the Mew VMAX and Iron Valiant. Those decks are probably okay and up to be playing. Decks below here might not necessarily be as well positioned if you're not already a super strong pilot. So I wouldn't take this information and be like, yeah, I want to run and play Chen Pao. I wouldn't necessarily take this information and say, oh, I want to play Tina V-Star. Just take some information and be like, hey, look, this is why decks are converting. This is why they might be well positioned in the metagame, etc., etc. I do want to run over some lists that we have from the events. Again, like I said, I'm recording this on a Sunday. We might not have access to all the lists available, but we do have a core list available for every single deck. So we'll jump right into that. Kicking things off in the decks that we found and sourced from the top 8 would be Ethan Wild's Mew VMAX list. Now, Mew VMAX, it was the only one in top cuts, and that's one of those things where it's just like, I expected a Path Mew to be making top cut at this event. It played against Miraidon in the top 8 and didn't necessarily get there. Things to note from this list is the Luxray grabber technique or strategies in this deck are quite good against Charizard. Charizard being the #1 deck probably was one of the reasons why this deck made it all the way to the top. Probably also hit some Rapid Strike Urshifu on the way. Maybe not sure. I haven't necessarily gone through their entire playing day, but this is their exact 60 from the event, and they posted it right after. Mew being able to evolve into Mew VMAX, copying Technoblast over and over again, while under some Path to the Peak goodness. So overall, pretty solid deck choice here. I can imagine some players are going to be playing this with Rapid Strike Urshifu doing so well. But at the same time, we also saw Lost Zone Box decks win in the finals. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But this is the Mew VMAX list. I'm assuming a lot of lists are going to copy and paste a lot of these same 60s. So these would be updated lists and more successful lists that you could grab off Limitless TCG, PTCG Legends, PokeStats.live, Twitter, all that. So I would imagine that the lists are going to start adding Luxray Grabber back into it, and that's probably going to be gravitating towards there. Probably one of the big winners for making top 8 at the event would be the Rapid Strike Urshifu and Teleon lists that both Gino, Peely, and Theo Grimaud both played towards a top 8 finish. I scoured Twitter, could not find lists for either one of them. So if anyone has links to those, by all means, feel free to put them in the comments below. I won't be putting deck lists in the comments below because these are just reference deck lists. So what I took was a pretty standard Rapid Strike Urshifu list that's been seeing success. I mean, I think that this deck is arguably going to be seeing a lot more success than it has. I put it as second in my deck list video last week. This is going to basically replace my deck list video this week because it has good matchups against Gardevoir, Charizard, and Miraidon, which are the top 3, alongside a lot of other matchups. It's weird that it lost against Tina and Lost Unbox, but I mean, it is reasonable to have that happen at some point. So overall, I think that Rapid Strike's going to see a little bit more play going forward, but it's also a hard to pilot deck. So if you're not necessarily used to playing it by now, you might not necessarily want to go with it overall. Decent deck choice for sure, though. And I no complaints when it comes to Rapid Strike and Teleon. I've been liking the deck a lot lately as well. So just kind of here's a pick for reference whenever I possibly can, if I can't necessarily find a list kind of showcase. The Rapid Strike's probably going to be on its way up. Keep that in mind. Similar to the Rapid Strike list, I could not find anything about Dustin Bachman's Lost Zone Charizard deck online. I'm not sure if I found them on Twitter or X or anything. This is a list that I found from Limitless that did well at the Gdansk Regionals. Rare canning into Zard using Lost Zone tactics, so you can attack with Cram and Sableye and Radiant Greninja, having access to a couple Mirage Gates. I think that this build's not very popular, so it made top 8. Maybe some people are going to take it and see lists available on PTCG Legends and Limitless TCG if it changes in time from this weekend to the next weekends. But right now, I don't necessarily see if we're going to get to that. I think a lot of people are going to be playing the Charizard Pidgeot version, which is the much more popular build of the deck. Now, again, Charizard, I don't think it's going to necessarily go down in play when it comes down to it because it was the most popular deck. We might see it probably stay within the top 5 decks for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the #1 played deck at San Antonio going into this weekend, just because it's relatively easy to play. People like Zard in general, and it's a comfort pick at this point. So Zard is also just very strong into the metagame. Maybe the Lost Zard's better, so it might be worthwhile to put some testing into. But overall, this is probably similar to what Dustin played. Can't be too sure, though. This is just a reference list. Moving on to the top 4, we saw Tina V-Star, the deck that had the highest conversion rate from day 1 to day 2 at nearly 20%. And it's Alberto Conte's top 4 list. So shout out to them for seeing success with Tina. Couple things to note here is that they did not play Jirachi, they did not play Manaphy, they played an extra Path to the Peak and went pretty heavy on their supporter line with the double Iono, double Roxanne. I think that list might kind of mimic this if they're a Tina player. So Tina might not be playing Manaphy, it might not be playing Jirachi as we go forward. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I think Tina might be picking up a little bit of popularity, considering there's a lot of Charizard that's going to be seeing success. It can hold its own against Miraidon, and of course it can hold its own against a lot of decks in the format. This is probably the deck that has the most mid matchup spread, where it's like you're doing okay against most things, you don't necessarily lose to a lot of things, but you can see success. That can be a little bit of a pile, which causes some people to stay off of it. However, if you have a deep run like Alberto, you could see yourself having a really good run at San Antonio or any of your local events. I don't necessarily, I could see this deck probably staying in the same meta position. If anything, it's not a bad, it's not a bad choice for this event. Tina's always going to just be there. So shout out to Alberto for the deep run. Let's see what's going on with Christian's list in the top 4. Looking at the top 4 list, this is not the exact top 4 list that Christian Hodes played. This is the list that Pedro Torres played that said it was similar from what I could tell on Twitter, playing the Roaring Moon, Iron Hands, Pokemon EX version of Lost Zone Box, or a Turbo Lost Zone Box like deck. So I think that there's got to be some kind of some similarity here. That's why I'm using it for a reference. So shout out to both of them. Roaring Moon plus Iron Hands is one heck of a combo we saw with Tord Rekliv in the regionals in Poland. Cutting the Kyogre line makes sense because there's a lot of decks that are just playing Manaphy. I know that this one didn't, and I know that Alberto's deck didn't. But you typically do well with the Iron Hands and the Roaring Moon anyways. Super Effective Glasses allows you to do a lot of cool things with Iron Hands, such as knocking out an Inteleon VMAX for 4 prize cards when it otherwise wouldn't be able to get a knockout with Ampy very much. Is Dark Lightning plus Minior good enough in this? It could be cool. I think there's a lot of cool things going on here, so Lost Zone Box lists are going to see success. I think a lot of them are going to look pretty similar to what we have going on here. Can they change up a little bit? Will they be playing super effective Glassive? Will they not? We'll have to find out as we kind of progress through the metagame. But this is the closest reference list that I could find in the short amount of time that it's going to take me to make this video. So I can imagine Lost Zone Box is definitely on its way up, especially with Christian winning the events. Let's see exactly how Simon's Miraidon deck turned out. Similar to a few other players, I could not find Simon on Twitter, but shout out to them on their success. What I have here is Yuho's list that won LAIC, and they also came 9th place at the regionals in Poland. I'm assuming most lists for Miraidon are going to look pretty well similar when it comes down to it. I don't see too much change coming here at all, so I think that Miraidon, seriously, is just a good deck. Anyone who calls it mid-Ride-On or, oh, the electric generators, like, look at the success of the deck in this format and see how well it's going to be doing. So if you're a player that wants to play Miraidon at San Antonio, ride on. The deck is very good, and I'm just tempted to play it myself. If you're not seeing the same level, like, if you're not seeing that success, maybe it's worthwhile to try the deck out in a few different ways. Sequencing can certainly be huge, but right now I think that this is a solid play going forward. And Miraidon, even though it can struggle against some Rapid Strike Urshifu or Charizard, like, it has some matchups where it could struggle. Turn 1 Iron Hands definitely solves a lot of issues. Or turn 1 attack with Raikou, or just even the option to attack with Miraidon EX turn 1. Like, there's a lot of cool things you can do. This build seems great, so this is what I have to assume is going to be going on. But we do have the champions list. And before, if you want to, all these lists have been hard to find, so if you want to support the squad, give this video a like, it really does help. And let me know what you think about all these lists available in the comments below. Let's jump into Christian Fontenot's winning list. Boom, here you have it, a very typical Radzard list, and it does not play Lapras GX, that is the V-Star card. So, standard, Comfey, Cramorant, Sableye line, there's a Spiritomb for the Mews. So if you're a Mew player, maybe be scared because Spiritomb just won the regionals, and Spiritomb is going to be played all over. Drachi, Manaphy, all these things. Like, this is a tough deck to beat for a lot of things, just because it's hit 110, a lot of single prize card Pokemon. So if you're not playing Iron Hands, or if you're not playing Rapid Strike Urshifu, there's a lot of things that could just be difficult. This list is probably close to perfected when it comes down to it. This list may or may not play Roaring Moon or other tech Pokemon. We've seen it with the list that from LAIC, I think it was Brennan Cameraman that played it. I could be wrong on... I'm just trying to fact check myself as I'm doing this video live, seeing what we have. Yeah, it was Brennan Cameraman who played the Roaring Moon build of SableZard. I can see that this build's probably going to be a little bit more popular, so if your deck was struggling against Lost Zone Box or Lost Zone SableZard, such as Tina, such as Miraidon, there's a handful of decks that this deck does very well against. Maybe just play a deck that does not beat those. But I fully imagine that this is going to be a very popular version of Lost Zone Box as we approach San Antonio Regionals. Shout out to Christian on the strong run. Let's see exactly how the metagame shapes up, but I think, like, if anything, Lost Zone Box decks go up. Charizard decks still probably stay the same. Mew decks are probably going to go up, but they should not, in my opinion. And Rapid Strike Urshifu is probably going to go up a little bit. Obviously, there's going to be some decks that go down, or at least seemingly go down, but I could see that Rapid Strike Urshifu might solidify itself as like a top 6 deck. Maybe it's not going to make the graphic. We'll have to see how it plays out, but there's a lot of cool stuff going on in our current metagame. Let me close things out. Well, that's what we got going on for the Stuttgart Regional update. Hopefully this explains a little bit more. Again, like I said, we went over in that last slide how I think Lost Zone SableZard is going to see a little bit more play. Lost Zone decks in general are probably going to see a little bit more play. Charizard is probably going to see a little bit less success, but you never know when a deck just pops off and wins 8 regionals or tops 8s in events. Like, it's not always a science, right? There's a little bit of a magic or luck element there. Rapid Strike's probably going to be a little bit more up. Mew might be a little bit more up or down depending on how SableZard goes. But, I mean, we'll have to see with those late-night events going on this week. Those are probably going to be the next kind of stop into our metagame and see how the global metagame progresses. As always, I really appreciate everyone watching these videos. If you need any of the cards for these decks, head over to our sponsors in our description. and use that TSS discount code at TSS 5, 6, or 12, depending on our sponsor. Again, all listed below, so check that out. And if you want to support the squad a little bit more, consider joining our Patreon at patreon.com/TSSWin. We now have long form articles created by all of our writers once every 2 weeks. So should be getting 2 articles a month for most TSS members that are creating long form content that's going to be a lot better for you to kind of digest, on top of exclusive videos, discounts, access to our deck list, stuff like that. So really appreciate everyone watching. Thank you so much. I'll catch up with all y'all in San Antonio. Peace out and have a great day. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. Hey trainers, tired of having too many cards lying around? I know that feeling, and I know what a hassle it is to try and sell those cards. But selling bulk is now easier than ever with TCG Bulk. Find tons of potential buyers in a single place. You just download the app, look for the best buyer near you, and carefully pack your bulk, ship it, and you get paid. It really is that simple. Turn the cards you don't want into the cards you absolutely need for your next deck. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.